Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt,
I'm Eric.
and this week we're afraid to go back in the water not because of the sharks, but because of the contrived plot. That's right. We are looking at The Meg 2, The Trench, an interminable 90 minutes followed by 30 minutes of fun.
You know, movies based on books.
The first Meg was based on a book, so was Jaws,
Well,
and both of them
this
excellent.
is too.
I know, yes. Yeah, I actually thought maybe they didn't have anything to go by, and I said, "Oh, a novel. I bet it was a novel that didn't have anything to do with sharks." And they just were like, "Wait, we could probably put sharks on top of this." And then they were because people love shark movies. You know what? People do love shark movies. I love shark movies.
Hmm?
I loved the 25 minutes that this was a shark movie. But
Yeah.
Eric, it's an hour and 56 minutes. And if you can do math,
So long.
we both had the same level of enthusiasm when we popped on, thinking about the Meg 2, the Trench. I I loved the first one. Kind of came out of nowhere. I'm a big shark movie person. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, Jason Statham, a giant shark. I'm all the way in. And you know what? It was fun. You had weird Rainn Wilson performance. You just had these kind of fun humorous scenes. It was all about this shark and how do we overcome this shark. Meg 2, the Trench, there are sharks. There's even a giant squid. They just don't know what to do with them. And for the first 90 minutes, you're in some kind of like corporate espionage plot film that you never wanted, set in the bottom of the ocean. And then there's some kind of piracy that you never wanted. And perhaps what would have been one of the only cool scenes where the sort of bad girl is tapping on the glass saying it's Meg proof right before she gets eaten was, of course, the one thing they put in the trailers. So no sense of spoiler or surprise there. You had a really stupid plot with a Chinese guy thinking he can train a Meg. You know what? You can't train a shark. I don't. Jason Statham's 100% right. That is a dumb plan. They somehow make good on the dumb plan because they only had an idea for how to kill two sharks and there were three of them. But you know, the last 25 minutes or so, when the sharks get free and they attack what they call Fun Island, I actually kind of had fun with, although even elements of that were a little overplayed. You had, I'm not even going to call them two-dimensional villains. You had a couple half-dimensional villains
Yeah.
that they were entangled with. I
So
am
many
giving
things
this
I want to just jump in and say, yeah, you're
I am
so.
giving this one a thumbs down. It's only one thumb down, and I'm not saying there weren't parts that were entertaining, but this was not what I was hoping for.
Oh boy. I don't think you and I've ever been this closely aligned. And so I want to just ask you your opinion on Zhu Ming, that character, that actor Wu Jing is a Chinese star who's kind of like getting a bigger audience with this. I really liked him, but
Mhm.
his character was a joke.
Worthless. And you know what?
Yeah.
I really think they were incredibly hampered. If you remember the first one is sort of a weird love story, even though he starts out by saving his ex-wife. It becomes a love story with somebody else. Could they not get that actress back? I need to go look it up, but she died
Or
off screen in between and somehow left her daughter to him. And
and they don't
it made
explain that.
no, well, they kind of in the party scene, Flash one, they flashed her face. You'd have to remember who she was. Yeah, they didn't.
No, no,
For a
but they
movie
don't
that
explain
spent
like
a really long time talking about intricate mining details, they really kind of whiffed on that. And also, the
like
opening sequence is a total non sequitur to nothing. His environmental advocacy just comes out of the middle of nowhere, really has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't have to do with him being a diver. You barely reference it in the future. It's just like something that happened.
the closest thing that you have in this to a story is the revenge plot with the one character who is bitter at Jason Statham for having put him in prison. And that is so nothing in the movie. Like I didn't even shrug. I can't feel anything. I
Well, and the
can't have
idea that all these people are surviving these ridiculously unsurvivable
Oh, can we talk about Mac, the
circumstances.
thermodynamics savant who fires and blows up a fuel station and manages to get just enough of the monsters but still propel his friend onto safety onto a helicopter? I, like I know,
Yeah.
I know. I know. And to be honest, I think there's something to the crew of people making these movies that they have an instinct for what is comically over the top. And that's the parts that there are little parts that I think work. I think some of the monster moments, some of the like the horrific things happening that are played sort of for over the top kind of almost laughs kind of things. Like you're not supposed to think, "Oh, that's so cool." You're supposed to think that's so ridiculous that that happened that it's funny. And I know that that's what they're aiming for. I mean, like you can see it just in the poster for the movie. It's just it's over the top and it's comical. And well, I'm thinking of this one. I'm thinking of the little dog looking up at
Yeah.
the Meg. You know that?
Or when it says he's looking for some old chum.
Yeah, it's so yeah.
But again, there's like 30 minutes of the movie. That's the fun you're expecting. Although,
From the second
why
they
introduce a giant squid if you have
oh
no
my
idea what
gosh,
to do with it?
it's so
And the
wasted.
battle between the giant squid and the Meg also mostly happens off screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and so but I'll say from the second you've made it through an hour and a half movie and they introduce the island resort that the Meg is going to terrorize along with its dinosaur buddies and octopus buddies. Yes, you heard me right. Um the that section of the movie was entertaining. There's like I think I don't know who said this, but like the worst sin of like making a movie is that it's boring. And that is the chunk of story from when they submerge into the water till they are back out of the water and on the island. And even then, characters are making some of the weirdest, most ludicrous decisions. For when can we stop pretending that gum is sticky enough to make contraptions out of it? Just like chewing gum and just take that out. You have to
Or that
at
you
least
can have
try
like
it out.
a little rowboat that's going to get you from the middle of the ocean to
And
wherever you're going
then
to go and
Jason
outrun
Statham
a shark. Apparently, or
so Jason Statham has taken this girl in, and apparently he had a couple of years, at least 3 years, I think, if the math works out, where he was a surrogate father to this little girl and her mother. And then her mother died, and he was just like, "Yes, she's the most important thing in my life," and he committed to that. And that could be really
how
sweet.
did the mother die?
I need this answer, but when he gets onto that island and he goes, I really need you to get to safety. I want you to go to this lighthouse, this outlook, and you look and it's right on the edge of the water, like overlooking the water. And he's like, I want you to go right there and stay there. I was like, is this a joke? Just run inland. Just give her like what are you doing? The there's so many times when I was expecting a joke to come out and then it half did and half didn't. Like I could have sworn that the character I was talking about, that Zhu was going to click at the megalodon and try and control it. And I thought that was going to go a certain way, and it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. But as far as the little girl goes, since he's her uncle, I got this weird feeling that they were like, at the end of the movie, okay, he's your father now. And he sort of was. Like, there's there are so many things. It's too much. Too
I
much
don't.
happened in
I'm
this.
looking at IMDb. I don't see any reason why Bing Bing Lee wouldn't have. Doesn't look like she has any big movies that are coming out right now. That
Well, even if
so,
some people I think are saying like even if she like is taking a break from acting or is retired, what is it about this movie that you can't recast? Or Or just make a reasonable excuse for her to not be there. Like, I don't know, I was attacked by a Meg once, and that's how my father died, so I don't want to go. But my scientist daughter sneaks on to the
The
mission.
girl's too young.
Huh?
Yeah, the girl
Yeah,
was too
like,
young, but I don't know.
she did sneak onto their
Yeah,
convoy when they were going on down. So just, I mean, just
there
do
was
that.
just
Like,
nothing about it worked. And the way
oh,
they set it up at the end, it's like, hey, we're ready to roll into another one. Honestly, if they're going to make another one, they need to remember that if it's a shark movie, it needs to be about the shark.
yeah,
All
yeah.
all great shark movies are about the man versus shark, not man versus boring other men.
Hmm.
I mean, this just, and they never really explain like how the hell did they build the underwater thing and nobody noticed? How, this mining operation that, how'd you get the pieces down there and build it? And how the hell did you get down there and build it with all the inherent danger that's going around? Because they basically can't even have lights or anything without. So
So I'm gonna take this a little too seriously for like 0.5 seconds. And I'm going to say, because this is what I'm still trying to piece together, because I don't fully get everything that happened. Um, the company and the family that began the expeditions into the trench in order to build what could be there partnered with a woman, not Jess, not the one who taps on the glass, but the
the one who was in Resident Evil,
one who's in Resident Evil. Yes.
Sienna Guillory.
And she, like turns on them. So if the idea is she used some of her wealth to hire a sub crew to go down and work when other people didn't know it and create a mine, you still have to move so much equipment. You have to do so much work. And then what is the point in you not using the person you're working? What makes this a bad guy thing?
And how
Was
did
it
they
that they
even
weren't
know
going to
that stuff was down there too, mine?
See, that's the thing. It's like, so if they would at least have said, well, we discovered that this is down here, but we don't want to mess with nature because if we take it out, it'll cause some explosion in the thermo whatever that makes monsters get out. And they secretly did it, and that's why the monsters get out. You have a story. But nothing like that is ever talked about. It just comes out of nowhere. I know that it's like when you tip too far into thinking, well, it's not that kind of movie, and a person like you like make an excuse to make a bad movie, their audience is gonna turn on you. I think, at least I did, because the Meg is not, like
It's
Oppenheimer.
fun.
It's
Not deep.
fun, and
It's fun.
it's really well made action, like fun, and it's well staged, and there's great like anticipation to scenes, and then there's a lot of unexpected humor, and there are pretty solid performances in that movie that are playing certain things straight when they need to and playing them funny when they need to. This is a movie that was like, we still have to competently make and explain a movie and a plot and then entertain people. The Meg 2 is like, well, people liked how funny we could make it, so let's get wacky with it. And but like, and then they hit like a couple of beats that are in a book, and then
I think that's the real problem. They tried to layer something on to, because runtime, I'm looking at it right now, they're both about the same, but this second one felt interminable.
Really long. Yeah.
I'm guessing you're giving it a thumbs down as well.
Oh, 100%. One though.
Yeah,
because there's that stretch.
It's not a super 2 thumbs down,
Yeah.
but it just I think the people that have been saying it's not that bad enjoyed themselves the last 30 minutes so much that they sort of just left behind the first 90 minutes that were abominable. And honestly, if you don't think about it too much, the last 30 minutes are fun, but
it's like the movie is like fairly competently directed. It's not like a shaky cam nightmare where you can't tell what's happening. So if you can suspend your care and make it from beat to beat where like Jason Statham is like holding his breath and like fighting a guy in a mine underground. And like that's mildly entertaining. And like if you enjoy the CGI spectacle, which I think I've just seen too much of, and so that all just felt really bland to me, like you can make it through and you can probably be entertained enough that the ending will win you over. But I don't know, man.
Well, I think we've given this sad movie as much time as it deserves. We didn't want to leave you this way, though. There's a rich tradition of other shark movies, and I'm going to say one half of the screen is belongs together, and the other half belongs together. We won't talk about the Meg, which we talked about. You know we like, and you've heard us talk about Jaws, but I'm going to give you two shark films that I like that aren't those two, and then we'll see if Eric has other ones. Two that
they are.
Yes. See if they're the same.
The Shallows and Deep Blue Sea.
Yes, though to me those are the preeminent four. If I had to give a fifth, and it's not as close to the other four, it's Jaws 3 because I enjoy the SeaWorld aspect of it. But Deep Blue Sea, I remember seeing that in theaters. There is a shock sequence in there that they managed never to give away in trailers that has the resonant power in the film that you're not expecting. It's funny. It does a whole bunch of things that work. And on the flip end, I'm going to say The Shallows is a movie that completely surprised me because I was watching the trailer for it thinking, my God, how's this going to work? And it is incredibly emotionally stirring. It's incredibly tense. Blake Lively is incredible. And it's mostly just her and this shark. And you're like, how's this going to work? I never once was looking at my watch when I watched those. The Shallows is actually my second favorite shark movie of all time, right behind Jaws. I think it's that powerful and perhaps that overlooked, but you guessed mine. I have no idea if there's one out there, like a secret.
Well, I don't. I've been racking my brain trying to think. Like the 47 meters down ones, I never saw.
You can safely skip. That's 2 hours of your life you'll never get back.
But I'll say the remarkable thing about Deep Blue Sea that I think a lot of people don't know, because there are waves after waves. Like every 5 years, you're going to get a new crop of people who have never seen that movie, right? You do not know how that movie's going to end. I dare you to guess. Like there's such a weird,
a pretty high class cast. I love LL Cool J in there. Thomas Jane's really good. Saffron Burrows, Stellan Skarsgård's in that movie. Samuel L. Jackson's in that movie. And there's just like funny lines like, "Oh, he's the smartest man in the world." Well, the smartest man in the world is pissing into the wind. Just where you're just like, oh my God.
I was so surprised watching the movie because I'm sitting here believing that this comes from an era in the 90s of tropes. And it's like a movie built on subverting every trope. And it's like, I was just like, so like, I don't know what's going to happen. And there was such real tension in a lot of the scenes. And just like, there's that early 90s CGI element to it, but there's just enough practical things going on to like, hold it together.
The summer of 1999 is an underrated time for completely rewatchable films. A lot of people think about Star Wars Episode 1, and that was the first big tentpole of that summer. And just the anticipation of having Star Wars back, and that wasn't great at the time, really hasn't aged well. But that summer you got The Mummy, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, The Matrix, and Deep Blue Sea. And then at the tail end of summer, you got The Sixth Sense. And that was also the year Blair Witch came out. And I'm pretty sure Blair Witch was either September or late August. So, I mean, I'm not saying those are Murderers Row of the most incredible films, but in terms of rewatchability and classics and genre pictures that really work, that is a pretty incredible lineup that now, 24 years later, still holds up.
Yep. I will shout out one other movie that I don't think anyone really thinks of as shark movie, and you can argue that it's not because it's not really the crux of it, but Finding Nemo. I really appreciate that whole thread in that movie, and it's one of the more memorable things about it to me. And I just there's something about it, like they're threats, they're knots. It's a fun sort of sequence, and I've never saw Finding Dory, but I just think if you're looking for like a kid friendly shark thrill, that's probably the best you get.
And if you're looking for just dumb fun, I'm going to say the original Sharknado when
Oh,
before they I'm not saying they weren't in on the joke, but before they were playing up to the joke, those movies really got away where they were just trying to be as stupid as possible. I don't think the first one's trying to be stupid, it just is.
mm,
But it's still hilarious because you have Ian Ziering and Tara Reid battling sharks in the streets of Los Angeles. It's just,
yep.
but I did mention before, underrated Jaws for me is Jaws 3. Jaws 2 is fine, except for it will never stop bothering me that the same people who survived the events of Jaws tell Brody that he's crazy, that no shark would ever come in the waters off Amity like a mere 2 or 3 years later. No. You're crazy, Chief. This could never happen here. Except it did.
Yeah.
You know it did. It already did. And they
Yeah.
just don't have enough originality. But Jaws 3, one of the early 3Ds, you can still get copies where you can have those old red and green glasses and have things pop out at you. But Dennis Quaid plays Roy Scheider's grown son, who's the park manager for, it's basically SeaWorld. They can't call it SeaWorld, but it is 100% SeaWorld. And they accidentally suck in a great white shark into this water park, and action ensues. Louis Gossett Jr. is in it, Leah Thompson, an early part in it.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's 1983, so it's quintessential 80s. I'm not, it's not a great movie. And there's a gulf.
Nobody's saying they have to be great movies.
There's a gulf for me between what I would consider the core 4 of shark movies that we've talked about and what I have as number 5. But I like it.
Yeah. So as far as summer winding down, I haven't seen TMNT yet, but this was sort of like it's bizarre. I think there are some unexpected hits towards the end of summer. I'm thinking about like Bullet Train from last year or some things like that, where maybe a studio doesn't have enough confidence to like put it in like a tentpole position. But
I think we have 2 possibilities left before we leave summer, both of which we're planning to get later in the month. One is Blue Beetle, which it's hard to have a feel for, but sometimes the DC and Marvel movies that you know the least about, that you're not expecting anything from, are the ones that end up being the most fun and endearing. And this one is supposedly set up to continue, although what can continue and what won't continue changes on a day-to-day basis if you're James Gunn, because apparently now we're getting Wonder Woman 3 with Gal Gadot, and I'm sure Shazam I already thought was probably going to get retconned in, since James Gunn's partner Peter Safran is the producer for Shazam. But the other one for me is Gran Turismo, and I was kind of bummed. It was originally supposed to open on Friday. Now they're going to have sneak preview performances the next 2 weekends, which will do nothing but damage its opening weekend box office. And then it goes wide on August 25th. And I still haven't gotten a good reason why. They said it has to do with the strike, but that amount of movement doesn't track for me.
Well, they can't. I'm curious about that, because the promotion for Gran Turismo has been very weird.
I think they were just pulling it away from Barbie and Oppenheimer, because those movies are still going strong, and they saw what happened to Haunted Mansion, and they were like,
Well, the issue right now is that they can't have promotion. They can't have actors doing interviews or anything for it. So they can't get Orlando Bloom to talk about it. They can't get...
But they could actually get the guy who it's based on, because he's just a car driver.
Okay. So
I also don't know if that movie I'm not sure all these movies need a whole bunch of promotion from the actors.
But if a bunch of people see Gran Turismo and they don't know from like having gone to the theater and seeing the previews and things like what they're getting into. They're going to Google it. They're going to see it's based on a video game. Maybe they'll find out how crazy the story is behind the making of this movie. Hopefully they will. But I think giving it a couple of previews is the goal is to test out if word of mouth will work well for the movie. Which
and it will help them to be a little bit further away. By the time you go wide on August 25th, you'll probably have more screens available. Because that's the thing. Even movies like Mission Impossible, that is a huge tentpole, have seen its screens get squeezed out because, I mean, Barbie just crossed $1 billion. Oppenheimer's over $500 million. Those are the movies that are making money. You might want to just be away from them. I wouldn't be surprised to see neither of the movies this weekend do that well. And I actually liked Mutant Mayhem. I thought they did a decent job with that Ninja Turtle movie. I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. It's much better than what we got. If you would have asked me beforehand what my excitement level was, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was and the Meg 2 was, because I love shark movies, and maybe that's even more reason why I just did not
hurt
and did not hurt. But we will be taking a week off next week because I'm doing some transitory things for work, and I will probably be incredibly tired. And also, we're kind of getting into that weird spot in summer, but we will be back on the 20th. And the Blue Beetle will also be back, and I'm very excited to see how this stacks up. Some of the non-name brand DC films have done well. I actually like The Flash, even though it didn't make any money.
Yeah,
but
it's all right.
Gonna be kind of curious. This would probably be the last DC release of the year because it sounds like Aquaman 2 is getting pushed
delayed again.
And I feel like the year is 2025 and it's going to get dumped on Max on a weekend in March. Because I don't really think they want to put that movie in theaters.
Well, you either put more money into it and keep working on it, or you release it and get as much money as you can. So
you had me at Amber Heard.
Oh, jeez.
But hopefully you guys find some fun things to watch at the movies and find a way to stay cool. Until 2 weeks from tonight, we will see you at the movies.